Good day. Welcome to Bible Class Topics. If it's your first time visiting with us, you are most welcome. Today, we want to look at another topical outline. This time, we want to start in Romans 7, verses 9 through 11. We're going to title the lesson, Be Not Deceived. I once was alive apart from the law. But when the commandment came, sin came alive and I died. The very commandment that promised life proved to be death to me. For sin, seizing an opportunity through the commandment, deceived me, and through it, killed me. These are the words of the Apostle Paul, and obviously we've taken it out of context, but we want to talk about the fact that sin can deceive us. If you'd like to know more about this chapter of Romans, we have a lesson on that, and I'll put a link to that in the end card of this video. Some say verse 11 that we've just read means that God's commands stir up rebellion in the sinner. They say that once a sinner hears the command, he's bound and determined to break it. But we must understand that Satan's power to deceive us is limited to using the occasion of God's commands to deceive. But for Satan to deceive us with the command would be beyond the power that is given him. The example of Adam and Eve illustrates the point. Satan took the occasion of the command, thou shalt not eat, deceived Eve, and by that deception he slew her, both physically and spiritually. So we can't say, the devil made me do it. The devil did not make me do it. I've deceived myself. Self-deception is a common problem. It seems humans have a predisposition to deceive themselves in many ways. Let's look at some biblical warnings against our tendency toward self-deception. We'll talk about the deceitfulness of sin, the deceitfulness within ourselves, and the deceitfulness of others. Let's begin with the deceitfulness of sins, and we'll take a reading from Hebrews 3:12 and 13. Take care, brothers, lest there be in any of you an evil, unbelieving heart, leading you to fall away from the living God. But exhort one another every day as long as it is called today, that none of you may be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. Well, sin is our own doing. We can't blame anyone but ourselves. James, the Lord's brother, in his short epistle, chapter 1, verses 13 through 16, let no one say when he is tempted, I'm being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it's conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it's fully grown, brings forth death. Do not be deceived, my beloved brothers. To die in sin will cause us to lose our very souls. In 1 Corinthians 6, 9, and 10, Paul the Apostle writes, Or do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. Neither the sexually immoral, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor men who practice homosexuality, nor thieves, nor the greedy, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor swindlers will inherit the kingdom of God. We cannot and should not pretend to be sinless. No one is sinless. 1 John 1, verse 8, if we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. At the same time, we should not fool ourselves into thinking that sinning is an acceptable practice. John continues in his first letter, chapter 3, verses 7 and 8, little children, let no one deceive you. Whoever practices righteousness is righteous as he is righteous. Whoever makes a practice of sinning is of the devil, for the devil has been sinning from the beginning. the reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the works of the devil. Sinners, then, are serving their master. Some Christians and some churches don't want to talk about sin. It might hurt the self-esteem of their members. So they allow each person to decide what sin is for themselves, but they won't talk about it when the church gathers together. Talk about eternal damnation is discouraged. Hence, we can see how Satan deceives people about sin. John the Revelator writes in Revelation 19:20, "And the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who was in the presence had done the signs by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped its image. These two were thrown alive into the lake that burns with sulfur." Then moving on to chapter 20, verse 10, "And the devil who had deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophets were, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever." Some churches do not allow certain sinful topics to be discussed from the pulpit. Sin itself is deemed inappropriate for the public consumption of the congregation. The churches may disallow sermons concerning marriage, divorce, and remarriage, alcohol or drug abuse, or anything that might offend the visiting public. It's come to the point that some churches won't allow guest preachers to speak from their pulpits because they want to micromanage God's message, and they don't want to expose the sinful conduct of their own members. They see themselves as wise while they're made fools by the deceitfulness of sin. What about the deceitfulness within ourselves? Are we wise or are we just fools? Let's go back to 1 Corinthians, this time chapter 3, verses 18 through 20. "Let no one deceive himself. If any among you thinks he is wise in this age, let him become a fool that he may become wise. For the wisdom of this world is folly with God. For it is written, He catches the wise in their craftiness. And again, the Lord knows the thoughts of the wise, that they're futile." God knows your thoughts, and He catches the wise in their own craftiness. Church members may think it wise not to teach against certain sins, but they're really thinking foolishly. We should not think too highly of ourselves. Galatians 6, verse 3, Paul says just that. "For if anyone thinks he is something when he is nothing, he deceives himself." Perhaps we deceive ourselves when we are trying to avoid pointing out an error in a loved one or a brother or sister in Christ, because we know when we do, we will expose our own hypocrisy. In the Sermon on the Mount, as recorded in Matthew 7, verses 3 through 5, Jesus says, "Why do you seek the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that's in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when there's a log in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye." This passage is not trying to dissuade us from pointing out error. It's admonishing a self-reflection before we point out the error in others. We might think we're being wise by avoiding the subject altogether, but all we're doing is practicing self-deception. If we deceive ourselves into thinking we are wise in these matters, beware, because our hypocrisy will eventually become known to all. James has something to say about this in chapter 1, verses 22 through 25. "But be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away and at once forgets what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing. So James tells us we deceive ourselves if we don't act upon what we know to be true. It's not enough to know God's will. We must do God's will, and we will be blessed in the doing of it. It's possible that we can deceive ourselves by not taking part in the Lord's work, taking an active part. In Galatians 6:7 through 10, Paul said, Do not be deceived. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. For the one who sows to his own flesh will from the flesh reap corruption. But the one who sows to the Spirit will from the Spirit reap eternal life. Let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to those who are of the household of faith. Let's say a word or two more about this passage. How is God mocked? Well, God is mocked by our complacency in the work. He gave us work to do, and we're not really going about doing his work. Another way we can mock God in this case is by catering to our fleshly desires rather than God's desires. We also mock God when we think we can go to heaven when we haven't sown the seed. And perhaps we deceive ourselves into thinking that people won't respond anyway, so we do nothing. The Lord says we will reap if what? We don't quit. So let's do what we know is good and right by all men. Let's teach God's will. It is our responsibility to sow the seed. Well, what if nobody will listen? That's up to them. Also, we know that God will give the increase. Our third point is that we have to beware of the deceitfulness of others. Evil men will deceive others while they deceive themselves. And I left off a point that I wanted to make before we left the deceitfulness within ourselves. If we do not take our actions seriously, we deceive ourselves, and our efforts to be religious and pleasing to God are in vain. James says, if anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. And now we'll talk about the deceitfulness of others. And yes, we've already said, evil men will deceive others while they deceive themselves. 2 Timothy 3:12 and 13. Indeed, all who desire to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted, while evil people and impostors will go from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived. Peter weighed in on this subject in his second letter, a letter that is warning people about false teachers. In 2 Peter 2:13, suffering wrong is the wage for their wrongdoing. That's who these false teachers are. They, false teachers, count it pleasure to revel in the daytime. They are blots and blemishes, reveling in their deceptions while they feast with you. These evil men will try to deceive you with their words. Paul said in Ephesians 5:6 and 7, let no one deceive you with their empty words, for because of these things the wrath of God comes upon the sons of disobedience. Therefore, do not become partners with them. Deception. What do we know about deception today? Well, we know from the top to the bottom in all of our countries all over the world that lying goes on every day among our leaderships. Hopefully not the leaderships of our churches, but we know that that is exposed from time to time by the media as well. Lying is prevalent in our 21st century society. They will try to deceive you with their words. As much as possible, we should avoid such men because we may become just like them. 1 Corinthians 15:33 is a passage of Scripture that's known by many, even those that don't study their New Testament regularly. The ESV says, "Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals." And so it does. Wouldn't it be a shame if we were drawn away from serving God? Let's take an Old Testament reading. Deuteronomy 11:16. "Take care lest your heart be deceived, and you turn aside and serve other gods and worship them." Many people will be drawn away into false practices while they believe they're doing God's will. Jesus warned of this as he started to wind down the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 7:21 through 23. "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day many will say to me, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, cast out demons in your name, do many mighty works in your name?' And then I will declare to them, 'I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness.'" It's mighty sad to see so many people in this world deceiving themselves concerning their own salvation. Many people will lose their souls because of their self-deception. We need to study our Bibles. We need to see what God has to say. And then, once we see what he has to say, we must follow his will. We don't have a choice if we want to be Christians, if we want to be the people of Jesus Christ. Thanks to the folks at the Battle Creek Church of Christ in Rapid City, South Dakota, USA, for posting this outline to their website. I'll put a link to their website in the description below. Thank you for studying with me. Thank you for watching the video. If you would like, subscribe, comment, and share, that would be greatly appreciated. If you need to contact me and don't want to leave your footprint here on YouTube, you can write me at bibleclasstopics@gmail.com. I hope that you are studying your Bibles daily. I know that I am trying to do that. And of course, producing these videos helps me to do that. And I hope that you have gleaned knowledge from these videos and that you are out there trying to apply God's will in your life. Till we meet again prayerfully very soon, may God bless.